Hi, it's Kelsey from Phantom Spot. Today we're going to talk about SPY Phantom prints, what they are, and how they can be used. Before we get started, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. And please pause the video to review the disclaimer on the screen. Okay, so a Phantom print is a type of dark pool trade, and what sets it apart is that it is at a completely different price than what we're trading at the time. And if you're watching time and sales, you can see it as it comes through the tape. It originates from a private exchange and it's reported to our public tape. And these are exceptionally rare and they can be potential price targets. And basically, until the market trades to that level, we consider it open. And then once the market reaches that level, it's considered filled or fulfilled. And it's basically not guaranteed to influence the price action, but it could offer the insight into what institutions are trading. And the market tends to have memory at that level, which is very interesting, and we'll get into that later on. So the information that I record is the status, the record date, the ticker, the price, the spot, the volume, the fill date, the current price, and the closest above and below. So the status is, like I just said, it's open until we've been to it, and then it's filled after we've been to it. The record date is when it's come on the tape, and then I always identify that it's a SPY Phantom print, and that's just something technical and picky that I like to do. The price is that the Phantom print and the level that it was at. And then the spot is where SPY was trading at the time that that Phantom print came through. The volume is the amount of shares. The fill date is when we reach that level. And then the current price, I use that column for the calculations of the closest open above and below. And this section, the above and below, is used to help you get a feel for like what's around you in terms of potential targets. And this is a big question that we get. How do we know if it's a buy or a sell? So each dark pool trade involves both a buyer and a seller, and this is a fundamental aspect. So these are reported after execution and they don't interact with the live bid and ask spread. And it's not possible to classify it as a buy or sell because there are two parties in the transaction. And any assumptions that you make are speculative on it and they should be treated as such. And we don't analyze them for buyer and seller intent. We just make them as levels of institutional interests or price targets. Okay, so a canceled Phantom print, the most fun type of Phantom print that we love. It occurs when you see a Phantom print and it comes through the tape, nothing crazy, it's just a Phantom print, and then it comes back through with the cancellation code. So these are still visible on the tape, and they often carry high volume, so like 100K, 200K. One of them was 77K. Regardless, that's high volume in terms of Phantom prints. And that makes them stand out. So they often contradict the intraday levels, and you'll see them appear on, like, if you go to the daily candle, like the high a day will show as that canceled Phantom print, and then that'll remove. So it's something that's printing on the daily candle. It's significant. So some examples of recent are 570.90. It recorded on September 17th and it tagged 2 days later. 597.02 tagged on November 6th, tagged 2 days later. 594.30 on January 2nd and it tagged 4 days later. But I think that was over a weekend, so it was like the 2-day theory on that. And this, in the August lows, we had a Phantom print at 551.34 that was canceled. And it took about until the 16th of August to tag, and it was a 30-point spot strike price difference. So that means we were trading around the 520s when it was recorded. And that was a big difference. So it took a little longer to get there, but it still did. And it's always worth saying this behavior is not guaranteed. And then something new we've been seeing is if we have an open phantom print and it appears after the cancellation, it's like a repel. It's the opposite of a magnet. And I'll show you after this example. So here's canceled phantom prints. The market respects them. You push through it and you gravitate towards the next, and you found resistance here. And then the cancel plus open, this is when it was recorded. And then you can see we went down to it a little bit, but we didn't tag it, and then we trended away from it. So that's the repel. And then a ghost print is something brand new that we've been seeing, and we've called it ghost print. I don't think anyone else is calling it that, so don't be searching it because it's just with us. But it's relatively new and it's unusual, and it appears on a data feed with a phantom print of 0 volume. And it's puzzling because how did that transaction happen if there's 0 volume, but it's still being reported to the tape? And your first thought is to ditch it and not track it, but we've been tracking it because it was reported. There's got to be something to it, and we've seen that price reacts to these levels. And you can see these white dashed lines and then the solid blue line. There was some respect there, and then you can see the wall that these two created. And then finally, once you broke above it, you went significantly above it. So these are very interesting to track, and I'm just keeping them on my chart for now until we see more. And then, so I provide a SPY plan every day that has an over-under, an upside target, and then a runner's upside target, and a downside, and a downside runner's. And basically, my over-under is an area that I consider price to be bullish if above or bearish if below. And it becomes just a regular area of interest on the reversal. So it can be used later on as well. And basically, when a phantom print is within the zone of the core upside or downside, it's higher probability for it to be a magnet. And they can be pivot points. If there's a phantom print that's more into the runner's territory, it's less likely to fill. But it can because it's in the potential range, but you need to monitor the news, the GEX, the everything that's going on with the market dynamics. So here are some examples. So this was on May 15th, and then this was the 14th. So my plan comes out the night before, and my over-under was here at this dashed line. And then we went down to my downside target, which held surprisingly well. The low was within a few cents. And then we bounced from there, and that's the example I was saying the over-under can become a target on the bounce. And then we pushed through that, and then we filled these phantom prints. So that was pretty awesome. And then April 28th, we went up and we filled some phantom prints, and they served as resistance for a solid 15-minute trend down to a canceled phantom print, which held for a 15-minute trend up to another canceled phantom print. So you can see the market dynamics around these canceled phantom prints and also the phantom prints that we fill. And then here's a crazy example. So I think this was around the Liberation Day, we had tons of phantom prints just below, and these were within the daily plan, but they were more into runner's territory. But we had the news to drive us down. And you can see once we got into this zone of phantom prints, and these were levels that we were trading, we were recording when we were at all-time high. So when we were at like the 610s, the 605s, they were showing us that they were trading much lower. So we went down there, and it was a total suction, and we filled all of these yellow lines. And that was crazy, but that was super productive as well because we were finally fulfilling the prophecy, if you will, that was coming from all-time high. So on a weekly view, I also give like a weekly upside and downside, and then like a runner's area. And you can see on it, this is a week time frame here, and you can see the circles of where Phantom Prince were filled, pivot down, and then you found some support, you went up, and then overnight you slid all the way down to these Phantom Prince, and they were filled. They bounced all the way up, and then you can see more and more filled. But the third session was very notable because we tapped into the ghost zone of the ghost Phantom Prince, canceled Phantom Prince, and then a bunch of open Phantom Prince. So that was really productive in terms of like the chart. And that was a huge pivot. So a lot of people have a lot of different things of what they want to stay on their chart after Phantom Print fills. Some people like to delete them all. Some like to keep some for certain reasons, and some like to keep them all, which I don't like to keep them all. That would just be too many lines. But I like to keep the ones that are high volume, and that could be like 50K and above. And because the market has like memory at these zones, and it can react to like prior positioning or algorithmic thresholds. And you can see the 508.12 level, 13 million shares were recorded there in April of 2024. And you can see on this chart that it wasn't just noise. When we fell in August of 2024, it was near perfect support, and the algos stepped in and bounced it very, very well. And then when you had this drive down, the algos targeted that, and you went down to that again. So you can see over the course of a year, that level, a year in what, $200? No, $100. That becoming such a target for algos and like market history there. So that's why I like to keep them on. And that's about it. But yeah, if you're interested in joining us, we do the daily email. We have the data set where I record everything with all of this information, the status, the date, all of that. So you have access to all of that. We have a Discord where we chat all day, and then we have an algo as well. So you can see in these charts where I have the trend over the candles and then the cycle. And then I also have automatic fib base levels. And these are great if you want some like calculations that are non-biased, strictly mathematical. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to email me at kelsey@phantomspot.com. You can join us at phantomspot.com. Thank you.